So I've gone over a lot of mods already, but I've been asked to create a mod set for someone playing with mods for the first time. But after looking into it, I couldn't decide on just one mod set. Players of this game are vastly different and want vastly different things, so I've come up with 3 different sets. We have the first mod set that I'm going to go over called Dippin' Your Toes In, which is going to focus on small but noticeable additions to change the game but not add to it. The second will be called Divin' In, which focuses on adding content without it being overwhelming. And then the final set, which is going to completely change the way you play the game, as well as add on more meaningful endgame content. Now before we get into it, I do want to say that you can basically add any aesthetic mod that you want to this. One of my favorites is Daisy Nico's earthy recolors, but again, it's completely subjective, so use whatever you want. I definitely recommend a change of scenery when playing modded. So starting with the first mod set, Dippin' Your Toes In. There's 2 mods that I'm always going to recommend for all of these. And these are the NPC location mods, where if you open your map, you can see the location of all the NPCs in the game. This even extends to modded NPCs if you've added any through mods. If you've already played through the game before, it's a great time saver and just kind of makes things less tedious. The next mod I always recommend is the Visible Fish mod. This is as simple as it sounds. It shows you the fish in the water whenever you're in an area. Not only do I think it looks nice, but it's nice information value because now you know what you can find in that water, and you don't need to waste your time fishing to see if something's in there or not. With that out of the way, first thing I have to recommend, Tractor mod. I'm sorry, it's one of the most popular mods for a reason. Basically, you're going into this assuming that you've already played through an entire game of Stardew Valley. What the tractor mod does is when you get on it, you can choose a tool and the tractor will automatically carry out what that tool does as you ride around. Choose the axe, it'll destroy branches on the ground. It can't destroy trees, unfortunately. But probably the most useful part is if you choose the hoe, you can automatically till the ground, you can automatically water the ground, fertilize the ground, and seed the ground. On a repeat playthrough, this will get rid of a lot of the tedium of doing the exact same farming you did before. Next, we have the Seasonal Outfits mod. Now, I will admit, this is a bit of an aesthetic mod, but it's a really good one. Every season, all of the characters will change what they're wearing to match the season. In spring, almost all characters have their default outfits, but now we're here in summer and a lot of characters are wearing lighter clothing. Abigail's wearing a dress. Some of the colors are just changed and it's just refreshing. It adds a little bit of variety to each season. Next up, we have the canon-friendly dialogue expansion mod. This adds a ton of dialogue for all of the friendable characters. And by canon-friendly, it basically just means that it's not going to make them say anything crazy. It's all things that you would expect them to say in the first place. Some of my favorites is Harvey will talk about how important it is to have a hobby outside of your job, or Willie talks about the importance of patience from fishing. There's even more dialogue for when you marry certain characters. This is again one of those mods that I think will add a lot more replayability to the game because you'll be seeing things that you've never seen before. And lastly, the biggest change that I decided to add for this light mod content is alternative bundles. This is just about the only mod that I could find that doesn't make the bundles incredibly difficult. Instead, it just heavily changes things around, and unlike the remixed bundle option, it changes almost everything. All of the themes of the bundles stay intact, but for instance, if we look at the Spring Crops bundle, they're all different. No more planting just a ton of cauliflowers and potatoes. You now have different things to focus on. And if we go over and look at the fish tank bundles, you'll notice that a lot of the bundles are still completely changed. They even included some night market fish. Now, not all bundles were created equal. For instance, the foraging bundles couldn't really be changed that much. They added in spring onions for the spring foraging and holly for winter foraging, but you can't really do much more than that. This mod should guarantee that you have at least somewhat of a different experience playing through the game. And that's about it for this mod set. Like I said, it adds just a few changes to make your experience different, but not too different. But if you want something a bit more crazy, let's get into the next set. Alright, now for the dive in category. This is going to focus on adding extra content without it being overwhelming. It's going to overall be the same experience, but enhanced and expanded. To start with that, how could I not mention it? Stardew Valley Expanded. If I open up my map here, you'll see that there's tons of different areas and new characters. There's different items in the game, new fish, new cooking recipes. I've gone over all of this before in a video exclusively for Stardew Valley Expanded because it's that big of a mod, it required its own video. If you want to go more into that, check that out. Otherwise, do Stardew Valley Expanded. It's such a cool mod, it could probably just be the only mod you add and it'll give you a completely new experience. I recommend it so much. Second of all, I still have the tractor mod here because everything I said last time still applies. It gets rid of a lot of the tedium of things that you've already done if you've already completed a playthrough. So the tractor mod stands. There's one more big change that I added. We have a new skill now, cooking. This is called the Love of Cooking mod and it adds a skill for cooking. Basically, it has everything all of the other skills do, and if we go to our cooking menu here, you can see that it's completely overhauled. I'll throw a few eggs in there, choose the fried egg recipe, and I can cook, choose as many as I want to cook, and there's a little animation for it, and it's done. And I got a little bit of experience for cooking. I don't know if not quite enough for a level up, but everything else is the same. It has professions at level 5 and 10. There's actually a specific tool for it, the frying pan, which you can also upgrade to get little bonuses for your cooking skill. It's very cool. It goes in depth, and I think it'll add a lot of variety just having a new skill to raise while playing through. The rest of the mods that I added are pretty minor compared to those. I do have the Better Ranching mod, which kind of just helps you out with ranching a bit, makes it a little less tedious. It'll show you if you've petted an animal yet, or if they still need to be pet. In addition to that, if it's like a cow that can be milked or a sheep that can be sheared, it'll show you if it still can be sheared or be milked. And it also has more specific notes. It'll say if you're like too far away from something to milk it, because normally it says the milking failed or whatever. Now it's more specific so you know exactly what went wrong. So that just adds a little bit of more convenience for ranching. There's one that I particularly love that I want to see if I can get to happen here. Here we go. This is Climates of Ferngill. This adds a few new weather effects, notably fog and blizzard. Oh wow, it actually goes with the leaves, that's funny. And also, on rainy days, sometimes it won't rain the entire day. It'll rain halfway through the day. So this just adds a little bit more variety with the weather. It can affect gameplay. There are options that you can change to make it to where there are gameplay changes. Otherwise, I like to just keep it aesthetic, but if you want to go a little bit more hardcore, the option's available. All right, and there's one more mod to go over. It's called Part of the Community. This can help make the community feel more connected. Things that you do with other villagers affect your relationship with villagers around them. For instance, if I give this gift to Pierre and Gus is close enough, Gus will see me give that present, and Gus will also gain a little bit of relationship with me because he's like, oh, that's a nice guy. There's a few other effects as well, such as if you marry someone, their family will gain relationship with you easier. It makes sense. There's a ton of different little changes like that to the relationship system, which not only do I think adds a little bit more complexity to it, but also once again makes it easier for your second playthrough so you don't have to go through giving everyone as many gifts as you did in your first playthrough. Just another convenience and cool factor there. That is about all I had for the medium mod setting. Let's go all the way in. All right, now for our last mod set. To start, we still have Stardew Valley Expanded because it's a good mod and I think that it should be a must-have for anyone who wants to get into modding. Second, just one I want to mention that I haven't installed myself because I'm using a pre-used farm. I'd say use a custom farm. Just look on Nexus mods, see if there's any that particularly interest you, and have fun with it. Adds a little bit of variety to your gameplay, and it's a major change because the farm is like the most important part of Stardew Valley. Then I have two very major changes. First of all is the animal husbandry mod. This adds a lot more content with animals. Dear Farmer Dipper, we know you're the proud owner of a farm animal. Congratulations. Here in our world, we love animals very deeply, but unfortunately they can't breed. So we're always looking to get more from other worlds. We know you humans love meat, and you might one day want to kill your animals for their meat. Don't do that. So here's the deal. To our luck, meat here grows on trees. So just send your animals to us and we'll send you some meat in exchange. We promise to take really good care of them. We've sent you a magic meat wand. Just use it on the animal you want meat from to make the exchange. The more loved it is, the more meat we'll give you. We might even add some extra items depending on which animal you send us. Your interdimensional friend. P.S. We know the wand looks like a meat cleaver. We had to do it like that, please, to please the bloodlust of some humans. Yeah, so we have a magic wand to send our animals in to get meat from them. And this is, I should mention, just the start of the mod. Where's our chickens? So just wave the magic wand. 1, 2, wow, look, we sent it and they sent us some chicken meat in exchange. It's not butchering. I gotta mention it. The mod was formerly known as the Butcher mod, and obviously that peeved some people. So it's now a meat cleaver wand that magically sends your animals to another world. It actually also uses energy. I didn't expect that for some reason. There's a lot of other parts to this mod. There's cooking recipes that you can use the meat in. There's contests that you can enter your animals in. I believe they happen the 26th of spring and fall. And there's just a lot of more rewards for actually tending to your animals now, so that hopefully by end game, it makes husbandry a lot more useful to you instead of it just being 100% crops all the time for money. And with that said, I do want to say that part of the focus for this mod is adding more end game content. Your adventure is going to be different from day one. You'll have all the extra content from Stardew Valley Expanded, along with several utilities to make the vanilla content faster. That being said, you probably noticed that the tractor isn't here anymore. That's because I have a pseudo replacement, pseudo extra skill, pseudo more convenience and more expansion for you all in one mod. And that is the magic mod. So to start off the magic mod, you need to visit the wizard with 3 hearts or more. And then you get this cutscene. It's a little weird because of the expanded mod. You can see it kind of changed the entirety of the inside of the wizard's tower, but it still works. It's time for you to learn the ways of magic. I have adjusted the Yoba altar in Pierre's shop for you to use. I will teach you the basics of arcane magic, but the rest you must discover on your own. The Arcane Analyze spell can be used to discover most spells. However, certain powerful spells must be discovered in other ways. Every school of magic has 3 normal spells and a 4th ancient spell. Even I do not know where these spells lie. To help you get started, I'll give you a hint. Try using Analyze on your watering can. To start casting a spell, press Q, press 1 through 4 to choose the spell, press Tab to switch between spell sets. These controls can be adjusted in the Magic's config file. Magic! If you're unfamiliar with the location of the Yoba Shrine, it is actually right down here, and it's very easy to spot since it's very shiny now. And doing that gives us our first 4 spells. As you can see, there's a ton of different types of spells, some to do with friendship, some to do with combat, some to do with farming. I'm gonna go ahead and equip just those 2. I don't really care about enchant or disenchant for now. These magic spells have effects all over the game. Some affect combat, some affect farming, so on and so forth. So if I hold Q and press 1 to inspect my currently equipped axe, that gives me the clear debris spell. Now I'll do it for the hoe, the till spell. For the pickaxe, it actually doesn't do anything. Doesn't do anything for the scythe either. All right, that gives us the spell Water and Blink for the watering can, and I don't believe any of these other ones will have anything interesting. But you should always try to inspect everything you get. For instance, if you inspect a torch, you get the light spell. There's so many different spells to learn, and I think, obviously I'm not gonna go over every single one of them with you because I want you to learn about them on their own, but I'll show you a few of the features already. Whenever you want to add spells, make sure you go to the Yoba Shrine and add them to your slots. And so let's say I want to set the farm up a little bit. Well, why don't I just use the till spell and then the water spell? It takes a little bit of doing to get used to, but there you go. All of that done with no use to our energy meter. We actually have a magic meter that also increased, just like health does slowly over the whole day. You can see it just went up from 39 to 40. So now you have magic, and the way you upgrade your magic meter is to level up magic, and you do that by just casting spells. And just real quick, I also want to show off the combat spell, so let's go check that out. All right, here's an enemy. So I could attack him with the sword. Well, that killed it. I thought it would take a hit or two. Or I could use my combat spell. And it actually does a lot of damage compared to the rusty sword too, so that actually could be useful as an early game attack. Of course, as you go through the game, you'll get better attacks to use later on. Really? That's the one staircase I didn't want. You'll get better attacks as time goes on, but for now, it works as a pretty good projectile. It does use up your magic pretty quickly though, so careful with that. Alright, I'm on my main farm now because I actually want to show a bit of endgame content that I'm adding as well. This is called Better Junimos. Junimos have many more things they can do now. If I add these 2 Void Essence, they'll now come out to clear dead crops. So it's just a bit of added utility there. So maybe something, there they go. In addition, they'll also now plant crops themselves if you want them to, and they have many other effects as well. The Junimos are also still fairly balanced because they'll request an item in return for their services, so if I want them to plant this jazz seed, I need to give them 5 iron bars, which, you know, fair. Although they'll do that, I believe, for the whole day, and then for the next day you'd have to give them another item. I'm not sure about that. They now can work in the rain because they have leaf umbrellas. They can work in your greenhouse. They can work during winter. It all just takes a few different things. And hopefully that'll make the Junimos more rewarding for someone, because at the time you get the Junimos, you're kind of already done with your farm. You want to move on to the Ginger Island farm, and it just kind of ends up being pointless. So I wanted to add a little bit of something there to make it more worth it. And those are the changes that I added for the major changes. I do think that the magic system changes enough about the game to where it's a huge change. The animal husbandry and the Better Junimos adds a little bit more end game content to make the end game stuff a little bit more different as well. And then of course with Stardew Valley Expanded, you have extra content all through the main game as well. So hopefully those 3 do it. I do want to make a final note. You can change any of this. You do not have to go by these sets specifically, and like I said earlier, add any visual mods that you want to add as well, because those are all completely up to you, and I wouldn't really recommend anything for sure along with any of these packs. As long as it doesn't conflict with anything, you're good. Thank you all for watching. See you all in the next one, and good night.